I'm Avery Collins, 29. The day I lost my job, my family decided I wasn't their daughter anymore. Not because I lied, stole, or hurt anyone because I was poor. My mother called it embarrassing. My father said I was a liability. My sister laughed and asked if I planned to live off vibes. They cut me out with the kind of smug certainty that comes from believing money is proof of worth. They changed passwords, removed me from the family plan, and told relatives I was unstable. Then I stayed quiet for years. No arguments, no pleading, just silence and paperwork. So when they called crying for financial help, they still didn't recognize the voice of the daughter they abandoned. I did, and I remembered everything. The first time my mother said the word poor, like it was a diagnosis, I was sitting at my kitchen table with a spiral notebook open to a budget that didn't balance. I had been working at a small marketing firm in Sacramento. Nothing glamorous, but stable. I paid rent, kept my old Honda alive, bought store-brand groceries, and pretended I wasn't terrified every time my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Then the company lost a major client. Layoffs came like a quiet storm. No yelling, no warning. Just a conference room, a tight smile from HR, and a folder with separation documents clipped inside. I was given 2 weeks severance and a pamphlet about unemployment benefits. I walked to my car, sat in the driver's seat, and stared at my hands until my knuckles went pale. I called my family because that's what you do when the floor drops and you want someone to remind you it's still a floor. My father answered first. Roger Collins. A man who believed feelings were a luxury item and problems could be shamed into disappearing. What happened? He asked. I got laid off, I said. It wasn't performance. They cut half the staff. A pause. Not the sympathetic kind. The calculating kind. How much do you have saved? He asked. I swallowed. A couple thousand. I'm applying everywhere. I'll be okay. I just... I might need help with rent if it takes longer than expected. What kind of help? He said, like he was asking what kind of infection. A loan, I said quickly. I can write a promissory note. I'll pay it back with interest. I just need a bridge month. Another pause. Then my mother's voice slid in, already loaded. What did you do, Avery? My mom asked. Denise Collins, queen of tidy appearances. Be honest. I didn't do anything, I said. They cut staff. My sister Brooke, who always found my misfortune entertaining, laughed in the background. Maybe she manifested it, she said. That was the moment I realized they were not worried about me. They were worried about what I represented. A crack in their polished family story. My mother said, We can't be responsible for you. I'm not asking you to be responsible, I said. I'm asking for a loan. My father's voice sharpened. You're asking for money. That's responsibility. You're almost 30. This is what happens when you don't plan properly. I looked at my notebook. I had planned. The problem was that planning doesn't protect you from being disposable to a company that can replace you with a cheaper contract worker. I did plan, I said. But I can't control layoffs. My mother inhaled, dramatic. You always have an excuse. Then she said the sentence that rearranged my life. We can't have you dragging us down, she said. You're being poor, Avery. And it's embarrassing. There was a muffled sound in the background, like someone covering the receiver to laugh. Brooke, probably. My face went hot. Embarrassing to who? To everyone, my mother said. Do you want people thinking we raised someone who can't keep a job? I kept the job, I said. They eliminated the position. My father cut in. Listen, we're not doing this. We have enough on our plate. Brooke's wedding is coming up. We're not funding your failures. Funding my failures, I repeated very softly. My mother's voice turned sweet in a way that never meant anything good. Maybe it's best if you take some time away from the family until you get yourself together. It took me a second to understand what she meant, because families don't exile people over a pay stub. But mine did, because mine worshipped the illusion of stability more than the reality of love. I'm still your daughter, I said. And my father replied, Not if you're going to be a burden. That night, I got a text from Brooke. Don't come to the bridal shower. Mom says it'll be awkward. Then another. From my mother. We're removing you from the family phone plan. You need to learn independence. Then, a third, from my Aunt Linda, forwarded like a warning. Your mom says you're having some kind of crisis. Call her and apologize. Crisis. Apologize. For losing a job. I didn't call. I did what I always did when I couldn't trust people. I made records. I opened a folder on my laptop labeled Collins and began saving everything. Screenshots of texts, email confirmations of my phone line being canceled, a copy of my layoff letter, because it proved I wasn't fired, my unemployment claim number, every job application I submitted, the dates, the responses. It wasn't revenge then. It was survival. Evidence made the world make sense. The next week, I received an email from my mother with the subject line, Boundaries. It was 3 paragraphs of polished cruelty. She wrote that my financial instability was causing the family stress, that I had always been sensitive, that she hoped I'd use this hardship as motivation. At the end, she added, almost as an afterthought, we're changing the locks. Not because we don't love you, but because we need peace. They lived 2 hours away. I hadn't even asked to come home, but they wanted to seal the door anyway, like I was a stray animal who might scratch their hardwood floors. I read the email twice. Then I saved it as a PDF and dropped it into the folder. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was busy. I found a temporary job. Then another. I sold my couch and slept on a mattress on the floor. I learned which grocery stores marked down produce at night. I paid rent late twice and never told anyone. I rebuilt my life with receipts and grit and a mouth that stayed shut. And during all those years, not one of them called to ask if I was okay. Until the day they did. The first time my phone lit up with my father's number after years of nothing, I didn't answer. I watched it ring out while I stood at my apartment window, holding a mug of coffee that had gone cold. Outside, the street was wet with winter rain, the kind that makes everything look scrubbed and honest. My phone stopped vibrating. A voicemail icon appeared like a tiny white flag. I waited an hour before I listened. Avery, my father said, and his voice was different, smaller, careful. Call me back. It's important. It's about the house. The house. Not about me. Not about how I'd been. Not about the years they erased with a few taps of a touchscreen. About the house. I didn't call back right away. I sat down at my kitchen table, the same one I'd once used to try to make numbers behave, and I opened my laptop. Old habits. The kind that keep you alive. Don't die. They sharpen. I typed my parents' address into the county assessor's website. Property records are public. People forget that. Or maybe they never knew. Either way, the truth doesn't care what you believe. There it was. 4-bed, 3-bath, purchased 15 years ago. And right beneath it, something new. A second deed of trust recorded 18 months prior. Home equity line. Amount not listed publicly, but the record date was enough. A line of curiosity slid under my ribs. My parents were the type to treat debt like a moral failure unless the debt was theirs, wrapped in the justification of investment or helping family. A second lien meant they'd borrowed against the house, against the thing my mother used as proof of her success. I clicked again. I checked the document index. Another recorded notice 3 weeks ago. Notice of default. I stared at the words until they felt like they belonged to someone else. A notice of default doesn't show up because someone missed one payment on accident. It shows up when the math has been ignored long enough that the math has to raise its voice. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my mother. I let it ring out too. Then Brooke texted. The last time she'd texted me before this, it was to tell me not to come to her bridal shower. That had been 7 years ago. Her new message was only 5 words. Please answer. It's really bad. I felt something in my chest that wasn't sympathy. Not exactly. It was recognition. The same cold drop I'd felt in that HR office. The floor collapsing. The scramble to find something stable to grip. Except this time, I wasn't the one falling. I finally replied to Brooke with a simple question. What do you need? Her response came instantly, like she'd been holding her breath. Can you talk? Mom and Dad are freaking out. I didn't call. Calls disappear. People deny calls. People rewrite calls. I texted back. Put it in writing. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Brooke. They might lose the house. Me, why? Brooke. Dad's business got hit. Bad year. They used credit. Then they took out a line on the house. Me. How much? Brooke. I don't know. Like, a lot. Me. What do they want from me? Brooke. Money. A loan. Just until they sort it out. Please, Avery. Alone. Just until. The same words I'd used. The same tone. The same desperation. Except wrapped in entitlement. I placed my phone face down and stared at the grain of the table. I could almost hear my mother's voice again. You're being poor, Avery. It's embarrassing. Funny how embarrassment disappears when the bank is knocking. I flipped the phone over and typed. Me, tell them to email me details. Amount, deadlines, paperwork, I'll review. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I said review. 30 minutes later, my mother emailed. Subject, family emergency. No greeting. No apology. No. How are you? Just urgency. As if urgency was a currency they could spend. Avery, we need your help. We are in a difficult situation, and we need to act quickly. We are asking for a short-term loan of $62,000 to bring the mortgage current and stop foreclosure proceedings. We will repay you as soon as possible. My eyes tracked the number twice. 62,000. The amount was so large it stopped feeling real, like looking at a mountain and trying to imagine moving it with your hands. Attached to the email were 2 things: a scanned notice of default and a screenshot of a mortgage portal showing past due $58,417.92 plus fees. The screenshot was the kind people send when they want you to panic with them. But I didn't panic. I saved it. PDF into the Collins folder. Screenshot into the Collins folder. Email into the Collins folder. Then I replied, Mom, Dad, I received your email. For my records, please provide 1. The full loan documents for the HELOC, second mortgage recorded date. 2. The last 12 months of mortgage statements. 3. A breakdown of how the $62,000 will be applied: principal, interest, fees. 4. Any notices from the lender with deadlines. 5. Proposed repayment plan and collateral. I read my own words and felt something like satisfaction, sharp and clean. Collateral. I could already imagine my mother's face, the way her mouth would tighten at the idea that I'd treat family like a business. But they had treated me like a liability. They had audited my worth based on income. They had drawn boundaries in locks and canceled phone lines. They had made it clear that love was conditional, so I made my own condition. My father replied this time, not my mother. Subject: family emergency. Avery, we don't have time for all of this. We need the money now. We will pay you back. You can trust us. I stared at the sentence "you can trust us" until it started to blur. Trust. From the man who told me I wasn't his daughter, if I was a burden. I responded calmly, Dad, I understand the urgency. I'm willing to discuss options once I have the documents listed. This is non-negotiable. Within minutes, my phone rang again. My father, then my mother, then Brooke. I didn't answer. Instead, I opened a fresh document on my laptop titled Timeline. I started listing dates. The layoff, the phone plan cancellation, the locks, the boundaries email, Brooke's bridal shower text, every clean cut. Then today, request for $62,000. I wasn't doing this because I wanted to hurt them. That's what they would tell themselves anyway. I was doing this because I was done being the only person in the family who paid the full price of their choices. If they wanted my help, they were going to give me the truth first. And the truth, I suspected, was worse than the number they'd admitted. The documents came the next day, dumped into my inbox like someone emptying a drawer onto the floor and calling it a plan. My mother forwarded a chain of emails with their lender. My father attached a PDF titled HELOC agreement that looked like it had been printed, signed in a hurry, then scanned with a thumb covering the corner. Brooke sent photos of envelopes on my parents' kitchen counter, half opened, as if the paper itself might explode. I saved everything. Then I printed everything. Printing is a ritual. It takes the panic out of the screen and turns it into something you can stack, annotate, and measure. I spread the pages across my table and got a yellow highlighter and a pen. I wasn't a lawyer. I wasn't a banker. But I'd spent years becoming fluent in the language of consequences. First, the mortgage statements. They were behind by more than my mother admitted. The past due amount in the portal screenshot was real, but it didn't include late fees compounding each month, nor the attorney fees already tacked on. The reinstatement, quote, the amount required to bring the loan current was $64,903.11 as of a specific date, 2 days from now. Second, the HELOC. Principal limit, $120. Balance, $117,400. My parents had nearly maxed it out. Monthly payment, variable, interest. Only option initially, then it would convert. And there, on page 11, a paragraph that made my pen stop. The HELOC had a clause about default, if the borrower failed to maintain required insurance, or if there was a material misrepresentation in the application. My father had always bragged about his business income, like it was carved into stone. But the application packet, attached in the chain, included something else. Stated monthly income. It was inflated, not by a little. If the numbers were true, my parents would have been pulling in more than I'd ever seen in my best year. It didn't match the tax returns my father had once smugly waved around at Thanksgiving like a trophy. I flipped to the attachments. They hadn't provided tax returns. Instead, they'd provided a profit and loss statement my father had typed himself. No accountant letter, no verified documentation, just a spreadsheet with neat columns and 2 perfect totals. My mouth went dry. They hadn't just borrowed money. They'd borrowed money on a story. And now the story was collapsing. I got another email from my mother. Avery, please. We don't understand why you're doing this. We're your family. We need you to wire the money by tomorrow. I read it twice. The phrase, why you're doing this, floated up, offended, as if I was the aggressor for asking basic questions. As if the act of requiring documentation was cruelty. I replied with a single sentence. Mom, I'm not wiring anything without a signed agreement. Within 5 minutes, my phone rang. I finally answered, not because I was ready to be softened, but because I wanted their voices recorded in my memory, aligned with the paperwork. My father didn't bother with hello. What is wrong with you? He snapped. We're in crisis and you're playing accountant. I'm being responsible, I said. You're being difficult, he said. We raised you better than this. I almost laughed, but it came out as a slow exhale. You raised me to be independent, I said. Remember? You said you weren't responsible for me. You said I was a burden. Silence. Then my mother's voice slid in, sharp. That was different, she said. Because it was me, I replied. Avery. Brooke cut in, and her voice sounded like she'd been crying. Please don't do this. This isn't the time to bring up old stuff. Old stuff. As if being disowned was a phase. As if their choice had an expiration date I'd missed. I'm not bringing it up, I said. You are. You're asking me for money. Money is the thing you used to decide I didn't belong. My father said, we're not talking about the past. We're talking about now. Are you going to help or not? I looked down at the papers on my table. At the inflated income statement. At the reinstatement deadline. At the HELOC balance. I could have said no. I could have ended the call and let the bank handle what families couldn't. But I wasn't interested in watching them burn from a distance. I was interested in making sure they understood the fire, the source, and the bill. I will help, I said. And the air on the line shifted instantly, like they'd all leaned forward. My mother exhaled. Thank God. I didn't say I'd gift it, I continued. I said I'll help. If I'm putting up $65,000, I need collateral. My father's voice hardened. Collateral? You're going to put a lien on our house? It's either that, I said, or you find the money somewhere else, Brooke whispered. Avery. My mother's tone turned icy. You're punishing us. No, I said. I'm protecting myself, the same way you protected yourselves from me. My father started to protest, but I kept going before he could bulldoze the conversation. I want a promissory note, I said. I want it notarized. I want the repayment schedule in writing. And I want a recorded deed of trust in my name for the amount I'm lending, subordinate to the first mortgage. If you default, I have legal recourse. It was quiet enough that I could hear someone's breathing. Then my father said, slowly, like he was tasting poison, You've been planning this. I didn't correct him. Because in a way, I had. Not the foreclosure, not their downfall, but the part where I would never again be the person with nothing but trust to offer. My mother tried a different tactic, soft, coaxing. Honey, she said, and the word felt foreign from her mouth. We would do it for you. I thought of the night I'd asked for a bridge month. The way my father had said, Not if you're going to be a burden. You didn't, I said. And that's the only fact that matters. The deadline was 2 days away. They didn't have time to shop for a kinder lender. They didn't have time to guilt someone else into saving them. They had me. And for the first time in my life, they needed me more than I needed their approval. My father said, Fine. Send whatever. We'll sign. I ended the call and opened a new folder on my desktop. Not Collins. Avery Collins. Loan agreement. Then I called the one person I trusted with both law and spite. A local attorney I'd met through work. A woman named Marissa who loved contracts the way some people loved revenge movies. I emailed her the documents and wrote, Need a promissory note plus deed of trust. Family situation. Urgent. I'm the lender. Marissa replied 10 minutes later. Absolutely. Also, do you want me to add a confession of judgment clause? I stared at the screen, heart steady. Yes, I typed. Add everything that keeps me safe. Because safety was something my family had never offered me. And now, it was something I was going to charge them for. Marissa moved faster than panic. By noon, she'd sent me a draft promissory note that read like a calm threat. It had the loan amount, the exact date funds would be dispersed, the repayment schedule, late fees, and a clause requiring my parents to provide quarterly proof of income and updated mortgage statements until the debt was paid. The deed of trust was the real spine. It secured the loan against their property, subordinate to the first mortgage but recorded in my name. If they didn't pay me back, I could enforce the lien. I could foreclose. I could do what banks do, with fewer smiles. Marissa also added something she called default acceleration. If they missed a payment, the entire remaining balance became due immediately. You'd be amazed how seriously people take a contract when it bites, she said when I called her. I didn't tell her my father used to say similar things about me. The last step was simple. They had to sign. Not digitally. Not we agree over email. They had to sign in front of a notary. When I emailed the documents to my parents, my mother replied within 3 minutes. This is excessive. My father replied 1 minute later. We don't have time for your legal games. I didn't respond with emotion. I responded with logistics. Notary appointment is available today at 4:30 p.m. at the UPS store near your address. If signed, funds will be wired tomorrow morning. That was the truth. Marissa had arranged a mobile notary as a backup, but I wanted them in a public place, under fluorescent lighting, where people can't scream without feeling ridiculous. Brooke texted, They're furious. Dad says you're humiliating them. I typed back. They humiliated me for needing $1,200. Brooke didn't answer after that. At 4:27 p.m., I arrived at the UPS store, not because I needed to be there, but because I wanted to see their faces when they realized I wasn't bluffing. I sat in a plastic chair by the shipping supplies and watched the door. My parents walked in at 4:34. My mother had dressed like she was attending a brunch. Cream sweater, pearls, lipstick carefully applied. My father wore his I am important jacket. Brooke trailed behind, eyes swollen, holding her phone like it was an oxygen tank. They stopped when they saw me. My mother's smile appeared, thin and practiced. Avery. Hi, I said, and my voice was even. It surprised Brooke. She looked at me like she'd expected rage, tears, something dramatic she could point to and say, "See? That's why we cut her off." I gave her nothing. The notary called us back to a small counter. He was a middle-aged man with reading glasses and the bored authority of someone who'd witnessed every flavor of human mess. "IDs," he said. My father slid his license across the counter with a stiff hand. My mother followed. The notary examined them, then flipped through the pages. "Promissory note," he muttered. "Deed of trust, acknowledgement." My mother leaned toward me. "You're really doing this?" she whispered, like I was committing a crime. "I'm really doing this," I whispered back. My father kept his eyes on the paperwork, but his jaw jumped. "You're enjoying this," he said under his breath. I looked at him. "No, I'm protecting myself." The notary cleared his throat. "I need you to initial here, here, and here. Then sign on the signature line. No blanks." My mother's hand trembled as she picked up the pen. I watched her read the loan amount, the interest rate, the payment dates. She paused at the clause about acceleration. "What is this?" she hissed. "It means if you don't pay," I said, "I can demand the whole balance." "You wouldn't," Brooke said quickly, like she was trying to remind me I was supposed to be soft. I didn't answer Brooke. I watched my mother's eyes move to the deed of trust. "This puts you on our house," she said, and her voice cracked on the last word like she couldn't believe reality would dare touch her. "It secures the loan," I said. My father finally snapped. "This is not how family treats family." The notary looked up, mildly alarmed. "Sir, do you want to sign or not?" My father's face flushed. He swallowed whatever speech he'd prepared. "Fine," he said, and he signed with hard, angry strokes, like his pen could cut the page. My mother signed next, slower. Her chin lifted as if dignity could be preserved in a notarized booth at a UPS store. Brooke didn't sign anything. She wasn't on the mortgage, just the chorus. When it was done, the notary stamped the pages and slid them toward me. "Copies?" he asked. "Yes," I said. My mother's voice went quiet, suddenly sweet again. "Avery, once this is over, we can move past all this. We can be a family again." The sentence hit my ribs like something heavy and dull. Past all this. Like the past was a puddle you step over, not a river you drown in. "I'm not doing this to repair us," I said. Her smile faltered. "Then why are you doing it?" I looked at the papers. At the stamp. At the signatures that meant my parents had, for the first time, acknowledged my power in ink. "Because you asked," I said. "And because I don't leave things undocumented anymore." The next morning, I wired $64,903.11 directly to the mortgage servicer, not to my parents, Marissa insisted. "Never hand someone cash when you can pay the obligation," she said. I included the loan number and the reinstatement reference on the wire. Then I emailed my parents the confirmation. "Funds sent to lender. Reinstatement should post within 24 hours. Your first repayment is due on March 1. My father called immediately. I didn't answer. My mother emailed back. "Thank you. We appreciate you stepping up. We're proud of you." Proud. The word made me laugh, once, sharp and quiet in my empty kitchen. They were proud now because I was useful. That afternoon, Marissa texted me a photo. The deed of trust, recorded with the county. My name was in the public record. Avery Collins, beneficiary. I stared at it, feeling something I hadn't expected. Not triumph. Relief. Because I knew what came next. They would try to rewrite this story too. They would tell people I helped because I finally matured. They would call it reconciliation. They would try to pull me back into the family orbit as if the contract didn't exist. So I did what I'd learned to do best. I prepared receipts. I drafted a simple, calm email to my extended family list, everyone who had ever been fed the "Avery is unstable" narrative. Subject: clarification. I attached my mother's old boundaries email as a PDF. I attached the loan agreement with personal info redacted, but the amount visible. I wrote 3 sentences. In 2019, I was cut off from the family for financial reasons. In 2026, I was asked to provide a secured loan of $64,903 $903.11 to prevent foreclosure. I'm sharing this so the timeline is accurate if questions arise. Then I hit send. No insults, no emotional plea. Just a timeline. Just the truth. And once the truth was out, there was no going back to the version of me they'd invented. The first response came from Aunt Linda 10 minutes after I sent the email. Avery, I had no idea. Call me. The second came from my cousin Mara. So that's what boundaries meant. I'm sorry. Then my grandmother, who had never used more than 4 words in a text message in her life, wrote, They did what? I didn't reply right away. I let the messages stack. Not because I wanted attention, but because I wanted the truth to settle into the family like dust that can't be swept back under the rug. My parents, meanwhile, reacted exactly the way people react when they're caught with paperwork. They called it betrayal. My father left me a voicemail that started calm and ended in a hiss. You're trying to destroy our reputation. You're spiteful. You always were. We helped you your whole life, and this is how you repay us? I listened once. Then I saved it. Then I transcribed it into my timeline document. My mother took the email route. Subject: Why would you do this? Avery, I'm in shock. How could you share private family matters? You're humiliating us. People are calling. Your grandmother is upset. This is unnecessary. We needed support, not judgment. She never denied it. She didn't say, We didn't cut you off. She didn't say, We didn't change the locks. She didn't say, We didn't call you embarrassing. She only complained about consequences. I replied with 3 sentences, the same way I'd been doing for years, clean and factual. Mom, I shared only documents you wrote and facts you confirmed by signing the loan agreement. If you believe any of it is inaccurate, tell me which sentence is false. Otherwise, please direct further communication to the repayment schedule. My father didn't like that. He showed up at my apartment 2 days later. I saw his truck from the window before he buzzed. The sight of it sent a reflexive jolt through my body, old fear from old hierarchies. But fear is a habit, and habits can be broken. I walked to the door, checked the peephole, and didn't open it. He knocked anyway. Hard. Like the door owed him obedience. Avery, he yelled. Open up. I spoke through the door. What do you want? Silence. Then his voice lowered, like he was trying to regain control by shrinking the volume. You made your point, he said. Now fix it. Call everyone and tell them you exaggerated. Tell them you were emotional. Tell them you misunderstood. The request was so predictable, it almost felt scripted. If I was emotional, then he could dismiss everything. If I misunderstood, then he could keep his image intact. I didn't exaggerate, I said. I attached your emails. That was private, he snapped. So was my life, I said. You made it public when you told people I was unstable. A long pause. Then, softer. Do you want us to hate you? I leaned my forehead against the door, feeling the cool paint. It was strange, hearing him try to use love as a weapon when he'd treated it like a reward system. You already did, I said. When I wasn't useful. His voice rose again. We're your parents. And I was your daughter, I said. But you only remembered that when the bank sent a notice. He went quiet. I could hear him breathe, heavy and angry, like a man who'd always believed doors opened for him. Finally he said, You think you're so smart. I am careful, I corrected. There's a difference. He pounded the door once more. Then his footsteps retreated down the hall. After that, the family split into 2 camps. The way families do when the truth is too sharp to hold with bare hands. Some people defended my parents automatically, because admitting they were wrong meant admitting they'd participated in the lie by repeating it. Others went quiet, embarrassed by what they'd believed. And some, like Mara and my grandmother, reached out with questions that sounded like grief. My grandmother called me on a Sunday morning. When I answered, she didn't say hello. She said, Why didn't you tell me? I stared at my kitchen wall, at the spot where sunlight hit the paint in a soft rectangle. Because nobody believed me, I said, and because I didn't want to beg for belonging. She was quiet. Then she said, Your mother told me you were having issues. I was, I said. I was having money issues. And they treated it like a character flaw. My grandmother's voice cracked. I'm sorry. It was the first apology from anyone in that family that didn't come with conditions. The repayments started on March 1, exactly as scheduled. My father set up automatic transfers the day after he came to my apartment. I suspect Marissa's acceleration clause scared him more than my silence ever did. Each month, a payment hit my account with the same sterile memo. Loan repayment. The first few times, I felt nothing. Then I felt satisfaction. Then, oddly, I felt a dull kind of sadness, not for them, but for the fact that the only way I could get them to treat me with respect was to become someone who could legally hurt them. 3 months in, my mother tried again. She invited me to Easter dinner, as if nothing had happened. We'd love to have you. Family is family. I didn't respond. I forwarded the email to a folder Marissa told me to keep labeled contact attempts. Then I went for a walk and let the spring air fill my lungs like permission. By the end of the year, the extended family narrative had shifted. People stopped using the word unstable around my name. The ones who had whispered about me before now avoided eye contact at reunions. Not because they hated me, but because the truth made them uncomfortable. That was fine. Comfort had never saved me. My parents still lived in their house. The foreclosure had been stopped. Their pride had been dented, publicly and permanently. And my name sat quietly in the county records, attached to their address like a reminder they couldn't scrub off with a fresh coat of paint. As for me, I stayed in my apartment for another year, then bought a small condo in my own name. Nothing flashy, just stable, just mine. Sometimes, late at night, I opened the Collins folder and scrolled through the old emails, the locks, the boundaries, the humiliation, not because I missed them, because I wanted to remember the exact moment I learned the most expensive lesson of my life. In my family, love was always conditional, so I stopped buying it, and when they called crying, still not recognizing my voice, I didn't raise it. I just asked for the paperwork, and I made sure my name was on it.